Okay, we're on here with Matt Hancock at Troy University, their pitching coach. Matt, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Fantastic. Well, we'll kind of get right into it. The first thing I'd like you to do for everybody watching be kind of just go through a quick background as far as your background in college baseball.
Okay. I started out coaching back right when I got done playing in 2005. I was real lucky to get a job basically, where I played. I got done and wanted to be a student assistant and automatically did that and then became a graduate assistant for 2 years at North Alabama and got really, really lucky. As I was graduating with my master's, the head coach there at the time was retiring, and they elevated the current head assistant, and he hired me to be his pitching coach. So 2009, 2010 season was my first full-time job, and I was at North Alabama all the way until 2 years ago when I got the job here at Troy University in same position as pitching coach and helping out with recruiting.
So first question be kind of a simple, basic question, just like, where do you go to find good players? Like if you want to go out and find good players in your area, where do you go do that at?
That's a good question. We get a lot of people reaching out saying they got guys. Everyone's got a guy for us and stuff like that. And that's great. I mean, we love getting that because we need as much help as we can get targeting the players. But, we have a lot of relationships that we form with junior college coaches and summer organizations around the area and a little south of here, some east of here. And that's kind of where we start. We know that where the good coaches are and good programs, and that's where we try to start from.
I like the line is that everybody's got a guy,
Yeah.
And stuff too. And I don't think that, parents fully appreciate how many guys are recommended to them, or how, I don't think even club high school coaches realize how many guys are recommended to them. I always thought it was funny when I was coaching in college too, that I would go recruit and I said, how many guys you got for me? Tell me 12 guys of their 14-man roster and stuff too.
Right.
So, another question I have would be, being a pitching coach for a long time at North Alabama, now at Troy, do you feel like that sometimes it's territorial on recruiting, meaning that even within the staff, do you think that there is bias towards certain guys that they recruit themselves? Do you think there is a penchant for recruiting certain guys they like when it's what they're coaching? I mean, you want to have the handing of the pitchers and you let the hitting guy do their guy and how that kind of works.
I think there can be at times. I think the biggest thing is, comfortability with the player you're signing. If I'm going out and I'm looking at a pitcher, one of the things that I want to be really comfortable with before we make an offer is, okay, do I like how his body works? Do I like how the arm works? Are there major changes that I see need be, stuff like that. And I want to be comfortable, even if those changes need to be made. I want to know that on the front end. So, I don't know if there's a bias of, hey, let me go select this guy or let me select that guy, but you certainly want to have, your hands around the situation and know exactly what the player you're bringing into the program.
We don't have you highlight your good stuff. We're going to kind of highlight some things that you may have missed on because those are more fun to learn from things too. Looking back at your time recruiting, do you think you made more mistakes on skill set that played, or do you think you made more mistakes on makeup?
That's a great question. I don't know if mistakes is the right word. And I'm not trying to protect myself or anybody when I say that. Here's my thought on makeup, because I think that's probably the toughest thing to really hammer down. Because, let's say somebody calls me and says, hey, Matt, we got a guy. And, he's my hardest worker. He's this, he's that. He's going to be your kind of guy. All these great intangibles. And what I've learned over the years is, it's not a discredit to whoever makes those claims, but how do you know? Like, they are for you, but how are they going to be in our program? And sometimes, you get makeup characteristics just because the guy's their best pitcher, their best player. Well, yeah, he loves being that guy. He loves being a hard worker when everything's going his way. Those kind of things. And then all of a sudden they get into a situation where, all right, they got to work a little bit harder, or they're not the best player anymore. They're not getting as many opportunities per se. And all of a sudden their mindset changes a little bit. How hard of a program did they come from? How hard are they really used to working? So I would say it's probably been more makeup where the skill set's there, and whether it's just the ability to mentally handle the game for the kid, or maybe they weren't as hard a worker, they didn't want it as badly as others said that they did. But that's no fault of the kids when that happens. That's just, or the coach that recommended it. It's just part of the process.
Yeah, it's a good point. I always think on, if you guys say verbally commit a kid, even in the spring of his junior year, you start talking about, possibly 18 months until he steps on the college campus, possibly 24 months until he plays his first game. How do you guys combat that, not combat, kind of bridge that middle ground from a verbal commitment to being part of the program? How much you coach a guy, how much you want to be part of the future culture?
Well, once we get that verbal commitment, they automatically kind of become part of our family. But within the same time, it's keep doing what you've been doing. The last thing we want to do is start stepping on coaches' toes. They still got 2 years of high school left at times, and you're playing for the program you're at that time, and you keep doing what you're doing, developing the way you are. We're not going to step in and say, no, that don't do this, don't do that. You need to be doing it this way. And, we just try to ease the process of, hey, you're part of the Troy family. We're going to stay in good contact. We're going to know what's going on with you. Certainly answer any questions they have or concerns along the way. But until you get here, we're not doing anything coach wise. And, that way too, it keeps guys fresh when they get into your program. Kids always want to reach out to me like that first summer before they come in. Hey, coach, got a workout plan for me. Need your throwing plan. And I'll send them stuff. But my thing is just to show up on shape. Show up the best shape you can be in. Make sure your arm's in good shape. Don't get bogged down trying to understanding things that you may not that are on that piece of paper yet. And that way, when you get to our program, it's fresh and it's new to the body, and it's kind of a new challenge for you.
We're recruiting a long time, North Alabama, now Troy. What changes have you seen in recruiting in the last 10 years? And what, good, bad, and different, what have you seen from 10 years ago now to today?
I think the biggest thing is there's more events than ever before. I mean, if we wanted to find an event, especially, prior to this COVID-19 situation, we could probably go to an event every single day out of the year if we really wanted to, be that a game, showcase, some sort of deal. That's been one change. There always were things out there, but there's just more and more and more stuff now. To me, the biggest change I've seen is you have less time to evaluate and make decisions. 10 years ago, you could go out and really zone in on 2 or 3 kids maybe and say, okay, I'm going to go watch him play, and I'm going to come back next week and watch him play again. The way the recruiting process goes now, especially in the summer when all these kids see their friends committing young, and hey, I got to commit so early. And people are throwing out offers at such early ages. We don't have time to evaluate them that much. I mean, you go see them play, and you got to sometimes, hey, we got to make a decision. That makes it tougher. It makes it tougher because, you see a kid on his best day, and you're riding home saying, man, he can really play or he can really pitch. And, the next 2 outings, it's just okay. Maybe those 2 outings, he was just okay is more of his true colors. But in your head, you've got the day he was really, really good. You just don't have that much time anymore, it seems. And I think we do a good job here of keeping our pool small and who we're going after and who we're looking at, to give ourselves as much time as we possibly can, so we're comfortable making that offer and that decision when it's time.
You talk about more events. You can go to it every day of the year. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, and why?
I think it's both. I think it's great to have as many options for kids to go to, so everyone gets the opportunity to be seen. The bad part of it is how many kids are we recruiting? How many kids are we really looking at? And I think it can send the wrong message if you're at every event, but you're not walking away with, okay, we're going after this kid now, or we're going after this kid. And because it sends the wrong message to the kids. If you're just there to be seen as a coach, as opposed to actually zoning in and trying to find some prospects, I think it can send the wrong message to the kids. So, but it's great to have. I mean, I tell recruits all the time and their families, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there may have been some way, somehow you were an unknown, right? Like you're that, needle in a haystack find. And with social media and all the events that we have now, you're not unknown. Like if I get a call from somebody and say, hey, this guy, nobody's seen him, like you must live in a deep, deep cave, brother.
Well, going on the social media part, how does Troy, either from a baseball program standpoint or from the athletic department standpoint, how do you guys deal with, social media as far as viewing possible recruits?
It's certainly something we certainly keep up with. We're not going to police it to the nth degree. We're not going to get on there and before we make an offer, just dive through everybody's profile, but it certainly is, a good idea. And we try to have a thumbprint on if there's anything out there before we go that route. I think it's kind of an ever evolving situation where, you want to know what you're getting. You want to know if there's something suspect out there, but I also think if you want to dig deep enough, you could probably find something that somebody's put out there that's a little, not their best colors at some point. And you don't want to hold that against young kids making mistakes. So, we certainly don't want to throw out a threatening presence against that. But we are trying to be smart and monitor them for sure.
I always tell people I'm glad I didn't have social media, 10, 15 years ago when I.
No kidding. No kidding.
So let's transition a little bit to the pitching side of things, and kind of where your forte is built and stuff too. Not so much in the nuts and bolts of pitching, but like more on the communication side of things. When you get pitchers and you get your staff in the fall and the spring, how often do you meet those guys individually? How often do you have a one-on-one talk as far as where they're at in their development plan?
It kind of depends on what the kid needs. I communicate a lot. That's something that's big to me. I tell guys my door is always open. And when you kind of have that policy and you got a group that likes talking pitching or likes learning, I'll find myself having individual conversations daily with our pitchers that have come into my office. We're going to find times throughout the semester to bring them in individually anyways and kind of give them, hey, here's your rundown. Here's where you're at. Here's my expectations going forward. But you also try to take that to the field with you every day. So what I try to do is I try to find a way to communicate with each guy individually, whether it's in their warm-up process, whether it's in their long toss process, if they're doing flat ground work, whatever it is that day, we sit there and we talk about what are we working on today. And in that way, the picture's clear. But there's more stuff out there than ever as well in the developmental side of things. And, there's a lot of data I look at. There's a lot of things that kids have access to. So trying to minimize that and keep it kind of clear and precise each day, I think certainly helps.
Going to the data you look at, how do you decide if a new piece of technology or a new piece of information or new toy, if you will, on the pitching side, how do you figure out if it's worth implementing because of the benefits it has versus, hey, it's too much to really have these guys understand and fully feel to actually do this right now?
That's a good question. I mean, and I think that may be more individual based as well with kids. I mean, there's going to be, I think in the next 4 or 5 years, just about every kid that enters a college campus is going to have some familiarity with the data, be a place they trained, whether they hit on a Rapsodo machine or they hit tracks or they threw to Rapsodo or TrackMan, whatever it is they're using, they're going to have some, familiarity with it, much more so than some kids coming in today. You're already starting to see some that have some feel for it. I think as you communicate with kids and you understand their background and where they're coming from is kind of how much you implement right away. We're going to have a basic design plan for everybody. And you don't want to throw all of them at it at once. That's for sure. I mean, we didn't even talk this year was our first year we really had kind of data tracking abilities here at Troy. And started in the fall in bullpens with Rapsodo, and then we carried it out to the field for inter squads. By the springtime, we had TrackMan installed, and it really was beneficial watching the carryover from the fall to the spring kind of tie itself together. But for the first month and a half, we weren't talking anything data wise with our guys, just because I was still trying to learn a lot of it. And I didn't want to go to them and confuse them and say, hey, this is what you need to do. And then come back 3 months later and say, hey, I was completely wrong. So I think it's as much as they can handle. We do some educational stuff with them when they first get here. Like this year's group will come in and we'll say, okay, here's what we want you worried about data wise. Here's what we think's important. Here's what we want you worried about. Now, how deep you end up getting into it with that actual individual, it all depends on how they can handle it and process it.
Next question will be kind of just two extremes, right? So you're recruiting a pitcher, and one extreme is they're the same talent level, skill set. One guy has had a pitching coach from age 12 to 18 every week, has a plan, diet, routine, everything laid out. The other side, same talent set, but has had nothing, has had no structure, no which guy you like more and why.
Well, it depends on what their mindset is. Like the guy that's had the pitching coach, that can be a good thing because they should have some sort of understanding of, how their body should move, how they should pitch, how they should attack hitters, how their stuff works. They've had coaching. So, hey, if I say something to them, they should have heard something of that like before. But if that kid's mindset is blocked with preconceived notions of, no, this is how you do it, and now I say something different, and that's a problem, but if it's open of, okay, I'm at a new level, I'm at a different place, now I've got to learn how to get these hitters out at this level, it's fine. It's no problem at all. And the adjustments can be made if need be, if a kid has an open mindset like that. The kid that hasn't had the coaching is always fun because it's like, a baby deer. Like they're just trying to figure everything out once they actually do get the coaching. The only problem with that sometimes is, what if the coaching's overwhelming to that kid? What if they, for the first time in their life, they're having somebody tell them, well, you need to do it this way, this way, this way, this way. And they're walking back to their dorm or apartment every night going, that guy doesn't think I'm any good. He's telling me what to do and how to fix it. So they take it as more or less criticism or an attack. So I think it just comes down to the kid. And again, understanding who you're dealing with every day and not trying to, generically form it and say, I'm going to shove all this information down your throat and completely overwhelm you.
Yeah, good answer. A couple more questions here. We'll finish up. As a pitching guy, especially now with the NBA and after that, there's this thing called load management. Back in the day it was called, hey, you threw.
Right.
There's load management. Three types of load management, right? The guys that you've recruited, okay, and come into your place, your guys, your 12-month cycles of your guys, and then, and part of that is sending guys out to summer baseball. So my question to you would be, do you monitor load management of your incoming recruits, knowing that sometimes club ball and tournament showcasing can be up and down nature? And then also, do you monitor your loads and trust certain guys as you send out to summer baseball?
Yeah, I mean, we monitor it. We certainly do. But again, it's going to be something really extreme before we step in. We don't want to step on toes here. We don't want to say, hey, no, we own you now. You're our property and you can't do this. My biggest thing with load management that I've found over the years is, if you have trained the arm properly and the body properly to carry whatever load it's carrying, you're going to be capable of doing. But if you have not trained to do that, then it's a problem. So when our guys report in the fall, I'm going to assume we have enough time that we're starting basically from scratch. Even though I've sent the workouts out, even though I've told them here's what to expect, even though some of them just got done throwing summer league games, whatever it is, we're gonna start from the same common place most of the time. That way we can build up together and make sure everyone's training the right way before we start adding load on our end. Once they get into our system, absolutely there's load management in terms of, hey, if you're going out to throw summer ball innings and collegiate wood bat leagues, how many innings you throw this spring? Okay. Now this is how many innings I'd like you to throw this summer. You threw too many. let's not shut the arm down completely, but let's take competitive innings off, stuff like that. And once we get into the system, it's more of a calendar cycle in terms of work management and load.
Yeah, sometimes I'll tell pitchers out here in Arizona, sometimes it's almost a curse to be a good pitcher young, because everybody wants you to throw all the time. There's always
Right.
this term you got to win. There's events you got to show up as well. And so it's just a constant up and down stuff for the good ones, because they're wanted.
Right.
To your point about like, there's been out all the time. That's great for hitters and defense, but pitching, it's like, man, do you have the wherewithal to say no to certain things?
Right.
Do you see that same thing as far as, your high-end guys where you're at as well?
Absolutely. I mean, the guys that they get invited to more stuff, the better they are. And you always want to go to something you've been invited to. Especially, you got an event like East Coast Pro, or, where there's going to be scouts involved, and hey, they want to see me, and that's great. Well, oh, come play here. You got a chance to be a perfect game All-American. You got, all these invites, and it gets tricky for them. But again, I go back to what are they used to do training wise, and how are they preparing themselves for each of that? If all they're doing is going out and maxing it out for 2-3 innings or of 20 pitch bullpen, and then they're not doing anything the next 2-3 days with the body and the arm, they're going to get hurt. If they understand, okay, I can do this on Monday, do this Tuesday, do this Wednesday, and then I'm ready to go for that event Thursday or Friday, or whatever day it is, that's fine. And then they go through the same cycle, and as long as they're spacing it out enough, it's fine. But it does become a challenge, and kids always want to throw their hardest at those events. And sometimes kids think that resting the arm is a better solution, and more times than not, I found it's opposite.
Yeah, I always found it funny when guys like, why don't you try to throw as hard as you can? I'm like, listen, if I could throw 95, I would throw 95 all the time. So
Right.
That's like telling somebody, hey, don't use what your gift is. Just tone down your own gift a little bit.
Exactly. Harness it.
Last question. Programs, and trying to win the conference, trying to go to regionals. Everybody thinks their program's the best, different, like everything. And so, how would you explain why Troy is different in your mind? Again, not what someone else doesn't do. What does Troy do really well? Why is Troy a significant program in your mind?
Well, I mean, you've got the best of both worlds here at Troy in terms of environment. Has a very kind of Power 5 feel to it in terms of facilities, in a very nice sized campus in a very small town. Everyone knows everybody here in Troy. Everybody supports everybody here in Troy. It's got a great fan outpouring. We travel, and there's always Troy fans in stands. In terms of what we can offer the player, I think we've done a really good job at targeting kids that want to be at Troy. And that's really big to us. We don't want kids that they're just signing here because, hey, I'm getting a Division I offer, or I'm getting an offer to go play in the Sun Belt. We feel very, very confident that every kid we bring in here wants to be at Troy. And when you start getting that, and you start getting some camaraderie amongst your teammates, hey, I want to be here too, then you got a chance to come together and do something special. And then the player development side of things, look, we're always fighting an uphill battle trying to catch the Power 5s. They have the best of the facilities, they have the best of the technologies and all that. But here at Troy, we're not far behind. We can offer a player just as much as just about any other program can, and any dream that they want to achieve personally is attainable here because of that. Awesome.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I know that nobody envisions their spring being on Zoom calls and working off their computer the entire time. And I think we'll all be a lot happier, and our wives probably happier once we get out on the baseball field again too. So, Matt, I want to thank you for your time today, and wish you guys the best of luck once this thing gets lifted and we're back to normal.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike. It was great catching up with you.
You too.